We have invaded Mexico by accident. But we invade, man, this is not an SNL skit. We invaded Mexico. Men on the ground, guns ready. It's an invasion, but it was a mistake. It's very difficult to explain the following, but I will try. Here it is. That's the invasion. Put it up full mass. A group of American defense contractors mistakenly landed on a beach near Playa Bagdad in Mexico. This was on November 17th, about 12 miles south of the U.S. border. They installed signs claiming this area is now restricted. The Mexican Navy quickly showed up. Why? Because they're in Mexico. So the Mexican Navy, they show up. It's a bizarre situation. It was resolved peacefully. Reportedly, the U.S. Embassy in Mexico blamed changes in the water topography for the error, because somehow they missed. It was a navigational dynamic. That's what happened. Okay, that's according to the U.S. Embassy. I'm laughing because the person to blame is Hegseth, who's in charge of. He's in charge of the military. One of the signs that was posted on social media with the Defense Department warning that the beach has now been declared a restricted area by the authority of the commander. So how did this happen? The Daily Beast reported the Mexican Navy removed the signs without incident and directed the group of contractors back to the United States, to South Texas, where they were hired by Hegseth to install the signs on the U.S.-Mexico border, declaring a so-called, quote, National Defense Area 3. It's part of the Trump administration's effort to shore up the border. Quote, changes in the water depth and topography alter the perception of the international boundaries location, with the Pentagon adding that contractors would, quote, coordinate with appropriate agencies to avoid confusion in the future. The news outlet, the Midas Touch, said on Thread. You probably could have called them the first time. So we're just showing up with armed contractors in military gear, and we're not phoning ahead to coordinate with our allies. So that's what we're doing. Okay. News outlets are reporting that the Mexican government has launched an investigation into the blunder. The Mexican Navy and Foreign Affairs Department issued a joint statement, according to the Daily Beast. Quote, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has contacted the U.S. Embassy in Mexico about this incident. The agency said, you have to imagine the good folk at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico, that America has invaded Mexico and didn't tell no one at the U.S. Embassy, and they're stuck in Mexico, okay? And the U.S. Embassy having to come with a spin story in order to make it make sense. So the Mexican section of the international boundary and the Water Commission, CILA, will begin technical consultations to further clarify the incident and will review the maps and instruments that mark the border between both countries as established by existing boundary and water treaties. Once again, you do this up front if you're competent and capable. All of this is a coordinated dynamic, easy to do, not difficult, just takes a little bit of, well, communication. There's more. This came the same day that Trump said he'd be okay with U.S. military strikes on Mexican drug cartels. This happened the same day he said this, which he has said this before. Americans on social media are holding Hegseth responsible. Quote, Hegseth guys need to have a woman who knows the directions. Threads user Joe Howie declared another user thinks the screw up was more than a misunderstanding. Quote, that wasn't accidental. This administration is incompetent. Military uses GPS for everything. Investigation is ongoing. When I first saw this story, I said, well, I wonder, did they not expect the Mexican Navy to respond so quickly? That maybe, possibly, this was intentional, and possibly this was a move of aggression, and possibly they were caught off guard by the equally aggressive and quick move of the Mexican Navy to be present during this debacle or intentional act. Who knows? All right, dear brother, thoughts here.
I mean, you gotta laugh because we have a president who has a history of being a reality television star, but I
Right.
think he has one-upped himself with Hegseth, who I think should be a sitcom star. Like this is,
Right.
I look forward to the shenanigans that this guy's going to get us into in the coming months. I hope no one gets hurt. I'm glad that it doesn't seem like anybody was here. I'm very curious about the changes in water depth that caused them to do this because that sounds a heck of a lot like a tide or and I'm pretty sure they do have more sophisticated machinery to be able to actually know where they're going. So I mean, this is a goofy bunch of people. I remember growing up and being taught that these guys in power were just like echelons above the normal person. These were experts in what they had to do. These were people who had sacrificed, who would work so hard. And now I think we have an administration where you just can't help but kind of laugh at them
Yeah.
because they're goofy. They're goofy people. So
Yeah. This was goofy, man.